Hey everybody, I'm Joe. Thanks for joining me. For some reason, my recording software didn't work for the fourth round of the league, so I'm just going to go through the replay here for you guys. So I won the die roll and chose to play first. I kept and opened with Wanderwine Hub and cast AEther Vial. The opponent was chatting with me a bit, told me that it's Merfolk Joe, and I told him you're thinking of someone else. So let's go ahead. Opponent played an island into AEther Vial. For my turn, put AEther Vial up to 1, and I drew a Merrow Reejerey. So unfortunately, didn't hit a second land, but I do have AEther Vial, so not terrible. Opponent plays a second land, and Spreading sees my Wanderwine Hub. So it's interesting, since I had Wanderwine Hub, the opponent didn't yet have access to Island Walk. Chose to take this opportunity to cast Spreading Seas, draw a card. We don't know what he's working with over there, but it seems pretty slow in my view. I'm stuck on one land. I've only got an AEther Vial out. I probably would have played a creature in his position there if he had the option to do so. But now with an island, I'm just going to feel free to go ahead and play out any lands that I draw. So I drew an island for the turn, and I play Master of the Pearl Trident. Leave up AEther Vial here, just in case I decide to play Lord of Atlantis on the end step. Opponent's going to take his AEther Vial up, and then he's going to tap out for Merrow Reejerey. So I had to stop and think here for a minute. Very similar development at this point. I'm behind on a land. We've got the same amount of cards in hand. Both have access, well, both have islands. So with Island Walk Lords, the opponents are going to have access to Island Walk. No reason to assume that the opponent doesn't have at least a single Island Walk Lord in his hand. If I vial in my Lord of Atlantis, I can tick up to 3 next turn. Put Reejerey into play, follow up with Master of Waves the following turn. If I do that, I'm going to be able to swing for 8 with Island Walk next turn and lethal the following turn. The problem is that the Lord of Atlantis makes all of his creatures bigger. So, assuming sort of worst case scenario, let's say that he has Master of the Pearl Trident to put in at the end of turn. His creatures is going to have the effect from the Lord of Atlantis and his Master and Merrow Reejerey. So the Reejerey would become a 4/4. His Lord would be a 4/4, and Mutavault would be a 5/5. Those guys would be swinging next turn then for 13. If you had another Lord to put in the following turn, it would be 16, I think. So didn't quite seem like they were going to be able to kill us next turn. So seemed better to me to maximize my damage on my next turn and then swing for lethal the following. So I did decide to put in the Lord of Atlantis on the opponent's end step. So then I decided to tick AEther Vial up and then activated it during my main phase to put Reejerey in. I happened to draw another Island Walk Lord, so that's excellent. Nothing really great I can do with Reejerey's trigger. Actually, I thought that at first, but then after a couple moments I realized it would be great. It's a great opportunity to tap an AEther Vial in the mirror match in our pre-combat main phase so that they can't catch us off guard with tapped creatures with a Harbinger of the Tides. So I did decide to target the AEther Vial. Opponent didn't really like all my lords, I think. So this guy's going to resolve. He did have the Lord, so his creatures are pretty big at this point. But I'm swinging for 10 here with Island Walk, and easily have lethal next turn. So we sort of have to see what the opponent had to do during his turn. He's only going to have 3 creatures to attack with, and Mutavault's always going to have 1 power greater than the Lord's. So currently it's 4, 4, and 5. That only adds up to 13. If it's 5, 5, and 6, then that adds up to 16. If it's 6, 6, and 7, that only adds up to 19. So unless he has 2 Lords and a Vapor Snag exactly, I should have it wrapped up. He starts off with Reejerey, so that's one of the 2 lords that he needs. He's going to untap one of his lands. Reejerey is going to resolve. He's going to follow up by tapping a Cursecatcher, getting, I guess, 2 Reejerey triggers, targeting 2 lands. Those lands are going to untap, and the Cursecatcher will resolve. So, no second lord as of yet. It looks like he's swinging for 16 here. Again, with Island Walk, everybody, because I had a Lord of Atlantis, he activates AEther Vial. It's a little bit scary. He's got 1 blue up and 2 cards in hand. Puts into play his own Lord of Atlantis. We see 6, 6, and 7, as I was mentioning. That's exactly 19. At this point, I asked the opponent if he had Vapor Snag. He told me that he wishes, and at that point, he scooped. So, it would have been insane if he had the last card in his hand as a Vapor Snag to do 1 point of damage. So yeah, I think putting in the Lord of Atlantis on the opponent's end step, even though it buffs his creatures, I did the math and realized that unless he had something absolutely insane, he wasn't going to be able to do lethal to me. And it worked out. I'm at 1, and we get to Alpha Strike next turn for the win. So the opponent conceded at that point. Let's go ahead and go to game 2. Going to try to close this window here, minimize this stuff, and we'll replay game 2. I can tell you the sideboard plan is taking out the 4 Spreading Seas, bringing in my 3 Tidebinders and 1 extra Kira. This guy played a lot of islands. A lot of the builds now maybe has something to do with the fact that I've been on this plan. A lot of builds seem to run a greater number of non-basic blue sources these days, so it can be difficult getting access to Island Walk, but this guy just seems to have only basic islands, so very easy decision to take out the Spreading Seas and just bring in the 3 Tidebinders, their island walking bodies, and you know, Kira's a creature, so I'm going to be on the draw this play, which is a huge disadvantage in this mirror match, as you guys all know. I'm going to go ahead and just open this chat, see if the opponent had anything else to say. So he's going to open up with Island and a Cursecatcher. Now that's immediately shifts the momentum onto my side. I had a pretty good opening hand. Actually, it's a really solid opening hand in the mirror. The only thing that's kind of a downside is that my second land is an island, potentially giving the opponent access to Island Walk. But the tempo swing that Harbinger of the Tides can provide, along with the body and card draw that Silvergill gives us, but most important, we've got the AEther Vial. Turn 1 AEther Vial reverses the disadvantage of being on the draw in the mirror match if the opponent doesn't open with AEther Vial. So I drew an Echoing Truth for the turn, which I was happy to see actually, because it seems the plan this game is going to be develop some pressure and just keep the opponent off of his pressure with our bounce effects. So I just played Wanderwine Hub, trying to do my best to keep the opponent off of Island Walk. I think that I revealed a Silvergill Adept. Probably don't want to reveal the Harbingers. I don't know if it says here what I revealed. Plays Wanderwine Hub. Yeah, it doesn't say. So, opponent's playing Master of the Pearl Trident. He's right on curve. He's got the good Island Walk Lord. Nothing I can do but take 2 here. During my upkeep, of course, I'll take AEther Vial up to 1. I draw another Silvergill Adept. At this point, I decided I can't lose the tempo of keeping my land in hand. I've got a handful of 2-drops, and I have access to 2 mana, even though it gives the opponent access to Island Walk. I'm going to go ahead and play it now. It's going to open up my possibilities for playing my spells. Yeah, I can't just sit back on 1 mana, despite giving the opponent access to Island Walk with an Island Walk Lord already established. You can see the play for this turn is to cast Harbinger and bounce Cursecatcher. The Cursecatcher is so tiny, but he just gets bigger and bigger as the opponent plays more lords. So bouncing him now makes him have to redevote mana to getting him back on the board. He's going to have Summoning Sickness, and Cursecatcher could potentially counter an Echoing Truth that I might want to cast in the next turn or 2. So it seems like a pretty easy choice for me to bounce the Cursecatcher here, gain some tempo, take him off of his currently only island walking threat, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm getting my AEther Vial ticking up slowly. just pass back to the opponent. It looks like he played another island and plays out Lord of Atlantis. Now this seemed hasty to me, running out Lord of Atlantis so early. I mean, he saw me do it last game, but he's only doing 3 damage this turn, and he certainly is not going to have an Alpha Strike next turn. Nothing I can do here except take 3. Unfortunate that he didn't have another Master of the Pearl Trident, because then I could have gotten more value out of my Echoing Truth. But still, we've got such great tempo plays with another Harbinger in hand. We're certainly going to use AEther Vial's ability here. Drew a 3rd land. Going to go straight to combat here and swing with the Island Walk Harbinger, getting buffed and Island Walk from the opponent's Lord of Atlantis, which is why I was saying this might have been pretty hasty. I guess he thought like he's on the play, he needs to push damage, but depending on what he has in his hand, it just seems like a bad play in a number of ways. So swing for 3 with Island Walk. Nothing the opponent can really do about it. It goes down to 17, and then second main, I'm going to play the 2nd Harbinger, bouncing this Master of the Pearl Trident. Again, forcing him to recommit mana to get him back on the board. This Lord of Atlantis is going to continue contributing power to my guys and Island Walk while this guy's off the board. So our plan is going great. I think I decided just to pass the turn here, leaving Echoing Truth up. This is a pretty great opportunity to, the opponent acknowledged that it's a dangerous game he's playing, and I totally agree. There's no reason really to run out this Lord of Atlantis. I mean, if he had a hand where this was the only creature left in it, then sure, I get it. You're going to lose otherwise, but still, I think you're supposed to wait on this. I don't have any lords. I don't have access to Island Walk until you play this thing. So, overly aggressive in my view. I was starting to say this is a great opportunity. The opponent's probably going to play out that Island Walk Lord and swing again, which is aggressive and potentially ill-advised because I can Echoing Truth the other Lord and just block this Lord once it loses Island Walk. So let's see how it actually played out. Looks like the opponent played a land, is going to cast Master of the Pearl Trident again. He played a Mutavault for the turn. Going to attacks, turns Cursecatcher and Lord of Atlantis sideways. I left mana up for Echoing Truth, and I left mana back to bounce Cursecatcher. To pay for Cursecatcher. I think the opponent just was frustrated. It's possible he just has a handful of lands, and he says that I got the lucky draws. I don't know that that's necessarily true. I mean, he's got a Mutavault, he's got a Cursecatcher, he's got a good Island Walk Lord. I wouldn't have access to Island Walk without this Lord. I did have the AEther Vial, and without a doubt, that's a huge advantage. I said it at the beginning of this game. I can totally flip the advantage of being on the play versus the draw. And, I'll certainly also admit that the opening 7 does play a huge role in how these mirror matches play out. But, you have to play as tight as possible, and I think the opponent was pretty loose playing out this Island Walk Lord when I didn't even have Island Walk established yet. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Sorry that I had to go to replay for this one, but I guess that might happen from time to time. It's nice that MTGO at least has the replay feature. So, please tune into the next video for the 5th round of this Modern Friendly League. Thanks again, guys. Bye.